Dear learners, welcome to my channel. Today we will discuss about scientific writing research article. Essential of scientific report. Abstract. All the research article of a journal carry an abstract in about 250 words. An abstract is a summary of the information in the research articles. It gives the silent features of main section of a paper like a IMBRAD method. Any reader would first go through the abstract and then decide whether to study the entire article or not. Therefore, articles should be taken while preparing the entire abstract. Introduction. How to write introduction in the abstract part? It will be general problem, objectives or hypothesis or scope of the particular study, 2 to 3 sentence. Brief description of the materials used and the methods adopted without experimental details, 1 to 2 sentence. Summary of the results, only the most significant results like a 1 to 3 sentences must need for the abstract page. Statement of the significance of the results and the conclusions, 1 to 2 sentences. It should not contain any references to bibliography, tables, figures, etc. It should not contain any information that is not mentioned in the research report. It should not contain any abbreviation unless should be a long word phrase is repeatedly used in should be properly introduced. Should be typed in a single paragraph. Should be written in short and concise sentence in past tense and is passive voice as far as possible because it pertains to work done. Types: biological abstract, medline, etc. The abstracts of research articles on the internet, informative abstracts, the abstracts used in journals and reproduced without change in indexing media. Descriptive or inductive abstract includes more details of a work that are useful for publication in conference reports, government or sponsoring agency reports, etc. In addition to the abstract, two other terms, viz. Summary and synopsis, have been used. Like a summary, since is nothing but it is an abstract of a thesis. Synopsis is nothing but it is a concise outline survey of the contents of a thesis or a monography or a review of paper. These are all the things it will be needed for the abstract. Next, we will start introduction. Like the introduction part, the first section of a research article paper is nothing but it is an introduction. It aims to introduce the specific subject of a research to the reader to justify the conscience of the topic, or if necessary the specific methodology adapted, and to state clearly the objectives or investigation hypothesis of the investigation, and some of the guidelines for writing an introduction to begin with a relative broad background of the topic of investigations is given. The background scope is progressively narrowed to specific investigation. Finally, the specific objective or hypothesis and materials of investigation are stated clearly. The introduction may also be utilized to define any specialized terms or abbreviations will be used in following text. The principal results and conclusions may be stated in the introduction. The introduction of a thesis has to be more elaborate. However, the basic composition of an introduction in all forms of research report remains the same. So most probably the introduction, it will be right in both present tense and past tense. It is established knowledge is expressed in present tense only, and also the results of previous works are given in past tense, and also it should be generally use of passive voice is practiced in writing introduction and other sections of a paper. However, many eminent editors of journals encourage use of active voice, the depending upon if a journals to use that type of active voice because it is less verbose and unambiguous. So these are all the things is important for the writing of research report in the introduction part. The next we will move on to the review of literature part. The review of literature in a research articles like a research reference to extensive and exhaustive and systematic survey of a publication relevant to the selected field of investigation. The process of literature review begins before the stage of defining the research topic or problem and continues to the publication of a research report. So, this review of literature it must write in the research report. It will be extensive, exhaustive and systematic survey of publication relevant to the selected field of investigation. This process of literature review it will begins before the stage defining the research topic of a problem and continues the publication of a research report. And this review of literature also having some guidelines to assess the level of a theory and research they have been already developed in the field of study, to know about the already existing matters and to find what remains to be investigated, and also to understand the definitions of a concept chosen in the literature review studies, to learn how to write a research report. So this review of literature part it's also learn to understand the definition of concept of chosen and also along with how to write a research report, to identify and adapt a research design, analytical methods, scales, instrument, data analysis also. So what are the designing is there and also the scales, instruments and also the data analysis. To become fully aware of all the difficulties encountered by other workers and do they avoid waste of time and money is proposed research. All these reasons become more evident when preparing final research report, especially while justifying the choice of a research topic and methodology, discussing our research and drawing valid inferences from our research. So these are all the things it will be must need for the and also to be followed in the review of literature. And we will start the materials and methods. Like a materials and methods, it is also one of the main part in the writing of a research report. In this section, the details of all the materials and methods used and if necessary, the details of all specific techniques were discussed. Here, this materials and method part, it will be very important to be study what type of a method and what are the techniques to be followed. The reason for providing all the necessary details is to enable any competent worker of repeat our experiment. And some of the few guidelines to be followed in the materials and methods also. It should be written in third person and past tense, but the use of the first person is encouraged in many modern journals. Both materials and methods are described together. Experimental materials such as animals, plants, and microorganisms should be identified by the specifying the gene, species, and strain. The sources and characteristics of this material should be described. If large number of materials were used, presentation of the details in a tabular form would be ideal. As for other materials such as chemicals, media, agents, antigens and antibodies, etc., technical specification, quantity, source and method of preparation should be given. Unless it is essential, it is better not to be mentioned the trade names. So if they are using any methods or technical specifications should be maintained in the proper way. It is also used to preparing the scientific writing. Unless it is essential, it's better not to mention the trade names. In case of if your visit to field work, it would be useful to include the details regarding locations of a field station, of a samples, etc. Related methods were grouped together. Not all the methods and techniques were needed to be described in detail. It is sufficient if literature reference is given And also they some of the measurements of the units to be followed in this writing of the materials and methods, like a liter, millimole, microliter, as well as a gram, milligram, etc. And also sometimes they are mentioned in the concentration of the substance, like a percentage, weight by volume, volume by volume, etc. Strength in molarity as well as a normality, etc. Dilutions 1:100 ratio, etc. It should be specified. And some of the materials and methods to be analysis of the statistical analysis data, like a standard deviation or the arithmetic mean, t-test, and ANOVA table. They may be mentioned without any descriptions or references. So, especially main thing, the no research should be included in materials and methods. Here only they what type of the methods and materials to be used in the following this research scientific writing. Only you should mention the materials and methods part. You do not mention any results of tables, figures, and results images. And finally, results and discussion. The discussion section of a research report is the most challenging section to write. And a good discussion, we try to bring out the principles, relationship, and generalizations shown by the results of our investigation. To write a meaningful discussion, we must thoroughly familiar with the pertinent literature up to date and have a good biological insights and mastery of relevant area. And some of the guidelines to be followed in the research and discussion, we must emphasize our key findings and in their interpretation. Though we deal with the results in discussion section, we may have to discuss the methodology. We must compare our research interpretations to other studies citing references from the primary literatures, and also to know knowledge about the specific organisms or systems, and also the theoretical implications and any practical sections of our research. Unexpected problems may be encountered during the investigation, we must place in discussion section. But because they have may be important, we must try to provide possible explanation. When we discuss the research obtained in our organism will not be inappropriate if we use references on the other related organism. So finally we must state the conclusions are read it is clearly as possible. It is a conclusion in main important for the both writing of a research report as well as a thesis writing. And also we must also suggest future course of research in specific organism or even a wide variety of organism and mention the possible field of such works. Use of headings for paragraphs dealing with the different aspects would be useful to overcome the problem to discover discontinuity between the paragraph. So these are all the things to be method to be followed in this uh, fi- uh, writing of a scientific report. Thank you all.